Action Comics 1053. Philip K. Johnson writing with Rafa Sandoval on the art. So, we had a whole big discussion last time, me and Matt did, about like Mentalo, the voices in his head, like when were they real? Was any of them real? And this issue did confirm that, yeah, at first Lex did go to him, did give him the body, because that was the sticking point for it. Couldn't have always been in his head because he did end up with a new body. But all he ever told him to do was to go and mess with the Steelworks building. He never gave him anything after that. But this issue...
It just still likes just being petty, which I love.
But this issue, though, goes into like the idea that he's hearing other voices. Superman knows that he's probably hearing another voice. But this actually implies that there's someone actually sending him these voices. There's one of the conversations with Metallo and his quote-unquote sister did seem to kind of imply that there is someone behind her that is beaming her in.
I would say even Lex kind of acknowledges that when Superman visits him. He goes, well, he goes, I'm not ready to answer that. But if he's hearing voices in that body, then we should probably stop him.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely implies there's something to do with that body that allows him to
was thinking it was made out of like metal from Warworld or something like that. Or...
Yep. I thought the same thing, that there's some Warworld metal that was reclaimed because Lex was scavenging.
Yeah, I wonder if it's less that someone's beaming the voice in and more that, there's like some sort of living entity in the body itself that's kind of like trying to take over or communicating with him.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But it's definitely not all in his head. The way Lex says that, it does imply there is something to be worried about.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, last issue we were sort of enjoying talking about that it could be in his head. That was like a fun little twist that, when he started talking to his sister last issue, it was kind of like, oh, this sounds like he's just hallucinating and he's just kind of messed up. That's kind of like reined it in and solidified it a little bit.
The only way you could still kind of pull that is the way if Lex, you could maybe read it as Lex going, well, if he's hearing voices, that's probably not a great time for him to be mentally unstable with that new body.
Although I suppose you could read it as like he knows that new body can't pick up any signals that aren't his. So if he's hearing voices, that's trouble because it means he's hearing things.
Leaves either something's hacked in or he's hearing things.
Yeah.
So, maybe you could still read it that way if you wanted to.
Yeah.
We're seeing this as confirmation bias more than.
Yeah. Do we think that whoever's behind this actually has his sister?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I know he shows her, or whoever it is shows the sister like dangling in pain, but
that doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
So do we think the sister just never made it that time to visit him?
I think Lex probably still had something to do with her not showing up that day, but I don't think it was anything more nefarious than like stopping her from getting there.
Because I feel like with Superman, especially this version from Philip K. Johnson, is he's big on compassion and whatever, and I feel like Superman finding the sister is going to be what kind of brings Metallo down.
That could be a big moment, if he proves that his sister's okay, it might actually be, because there's that moment later on where Metallo says, I know what you've done with my sister, and Superman's like, huh?
Yeah.
I can definitely also see it taking the route of, Superman figuring that, being like, well, let's go show him that she's safe.
Right.
And Metallo just not believing it anyway.
Right. Because he's deluded himself into this fake reality.
It could get really dark. What if we get like an Injustice style thing where he thinks it's a trick and he ends up killing his sister by accident?
Oof, rough.
Yeah, that would be a little bit fridgy, so I hope not.
Is it fridgy?
Kind of.
I mean, did we know about Metallo's sister before this?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think the character's like big enough to consider it be fridging. She's a supporting character her entire role. Her entire role up until this point is just purely for the sake of Metallo's like story, which is fine because that's what she was designed for.
A woman invented entirely just to give this thing for this man to kill and then
but that's not the problem with fridging though. The problem with fridging is you take a character who has enough merit on their own to want to have around. This character clearly from the first moment she was introduced is there just for Metallo's story. Like that's just a side character. That's okay. Every story has side characters.
Yeah, I guess. I guess it's more just to do with the fact they haven't given it the opportunity to flesh her out more, though.
It's when a character. I don't know, it's a weird complaint to me because to me this is a disposable character who could kill in a heartbeat.
That's fair.
Yeah, some characters are just disposable.
But I feel like it
be.
becomes fridging when her only role is to get murdered to cause, the next part of the plot, right?
I mean, if that's what she was introduced for in the first place, I don't think that's a problem.
Right.
Yeah, some characters' purpose are to just do that. That's what a red shirt is.
I feel that Philip K. Johnson's not that cruel, right?
I agree. I also didn't even consider that was going to happen.
Yeah. I'm not even insisting that it's problem. I just pondered the idea. Maybe it could.
Just the fact that Superman is, and I can't remember the term from Warworld, but he is the unblooded sword. So like just the idea of him going to Metallo and trying to reach through is like, hey bud, your sister's fine, I promise. And that beating. Like,
we clearly have a slightly different definition of fridging here, because I would not consider that fridging if that's what the character's purpose was from the get-go. I don't think that is fridging.
Yeah, Metallo, super creepy, right? Like that scene where he attacks the super family.
It is notable as well as like based on that comment from Lex about that body. It is notable that afterwards it started to look like his body did look a bit different than normal. Like his hand looked a bit more alien looking. It was still metal, but it looked like like an alien design more than typical Metallo.
It wasn't like just straight up a robotic body like we're used to seeing with Metallo. Right. Even like the legs have got extra like spikes and jutting bits off the side. He's got like the almost wings coming out of his back. Yeah.
Well, whatever he's doing, the worse he gets, it shows like the outside of his body starts to take it, right? So he's starting to transform into...
I'm looking at now the hands, the claw. It looks very White Martian. Like just in terms of an aesthetic kind of design there. Like,
but it's also scary.
It
points are scary, and But no, when he attacks the super family with those guys with the blue earthers that from the last issue, and they're just they're like these cybernetic zombie. That was pretty creepy.
On them first, they attack Steel at the start of the issue.
Steel, that's right.
And call him a traitor for siding with aliens, and then the super family show up to help fight them back. I will say, I'm not a fan of Steel being able to just magically make his costume appear. Like I know they've probably explained it with like nanotech or something at some point. It's just not cool. It's the same thing I've always said about Iron Man. Is like Iron Man's suit when it was mechanically like going onto him was cool. As soon as it turned into nanobots in like the fourth movie, it's like this is just magic now.
Hold on though, were the nanobots courtesy of Ray Palmer? Because if they were, that's okay.
Nah, it's not satisfying.
It's just irons. It's irons tech. Still works.
I'll put it this. It's like okay. I used Iron Man because of the mechanical side to compare it to, but I'll use Superman as a comparison. Superman ripping open his shirt to reveal that his costume's just under there is always going to be more satisfying than like a magic light going up his body and turning his outfit into the suit. Always.
I mean, it is much cooler. You used Iron Man, but like think about in the first Avengers movie when Loki throws him out of Stark Tower, and he uses the bands to bring the suit to him.
There's more drama.
And it forms around him. It just looks cooler too. Like it's a cool image versus. If Tony was just falling and the Extremis armor comes out and just forms around his body and he flies up, I just I think there's a way to do it with Steel. That'd be cool, but I feel like they're already doing so much right with Metallo, and I can deal with the nanobots for now.
I'm not asking for an explanation here. I just that the panel of his suit coming on just made me think about it, so I thought I'd bring it up. I'm not saying that they should explain it here because I'm sure this has just been a thing for a while.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I'm not even talking about explanation. I'm just saying, like, brevity of storytelling and whatever, Well,
yeah, but I'm not saying that there should be an explanation in this story, because this has been a thing that's established ages ago, probably. Yeah. This is probably something that's been here from the 90s.
Maybe, but anyways.
Yeah, this is not like a new development. I just, there's a panel of them switching, and it just made me think of it. I wanted to talk about it. So yeah, I have a big fight. Kara gets hurt during the fight. Like 3 of the drones, these humans that have been turned into Metallo drones, blast her with like just tons of kryptonite, so it's in her system, and she gets flied off to the fortress to be healed up.
She's not doing so good.
There's a nice little moment though where there's one of them is left alive, and Superman asks Keenan to take him to a hospital or whatever. Star Labs, yeah. And Keenan's like, "Yeah, do we really want to save him? He's kind of a dickhead."
Yeah, he sees this Blue Earther guy, and you're like, "Why? Like, he doesn't like you."
Yeah, and Superman actually has a nice little response for this. He's like, "Well, yeah, because we can only save the world if we save him. Because if we let him die, then he can never be anything better than this. This will be the best he'll ever be. But if we save him, then he can become better." So it was a nice little Superman speech.
It's what Philip Kennedy Johnson does so well with Superman, and it's that stuff right there, that inspirational, compassion.
You can tell that I'm pretty sure his favorite Superman story is All Star Superman.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very much inspired by specifically that Superman.
Yeah,
and that's okay because it's a great Superman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the questions and one of the reasons why me and Matt went all deep in the theories last issue was because it was the realization that all this Lex stuff with Metallo right now doesn't jive with Superman the book at all. Given what Lex is doing in that issue, and they actually address it here, where Superman goes to see Lex and. Not only does he say, "Oh yeah, okay, I told him to go after that building," but he specifically says, "I did that before I made you the big offer, though, to give you the company and like decide with you." So they kind of cleaned that up a little bit.
A little bit. It's still a bit messy, but I don't care.
It's a little bit convenient.
I'll still say that Lexi's characterization here still feels a little bit different to the Superman book. It is just a little bit. It's just the writing. It's the way the dialogue's written just feels different to the way Williamson writes them.
I think there is a moment here where he's like, "Oh well, I could still be a better Superman than you," but there's no maybe just a reminder of like, hey, maybe if you let me help you, we could stop him quicker. Like, there's not really enough of that to really just make it feel like the same.
It feels like the bare minimum to just like sort of like coexist with the other book and no more. Because Johnson's doing his own thing, Williamson's doing his own thing, but they at least addressed that a little bit, which was nice. And I have no problem with the books not really lining up at all. I can always just think that one is set a little bit after the other and just go with that.
It's not just characterization.
Yeah, I think the only reason why this stuck out a bit more is because it was specifically Lex was in both, and it just felt like it was contradictory, which is why we thought, Lex hasn't really been talking to Metallo.
And like I say, he's clearly still in the same headspace because he's in prison in both of them, so it can't be that far apart that he's a completely different man.
Yeah. And to be fair, Lex was still fake in his head. No, maybe not at his first when he told him to go to the building, but he was last issue when he was talking to him before he turned into his sister.
Yeah.
So, we do get scenes with Metallo talking to his sister, and he even basically clocks on, "You're not really my sister, are you?" And then shows, because he's reminiscing about their father and talking about how he became violent and the first time he held the gun and all the rest of it. They're really doing kind of a sort of Captain Cold-esque kind of like bit of backstory to Metallo here in this arc to try and give you a bit more sympathy for him. And to be fair, I think it's working fairly well, because even just from the get-go, when it was like he's been manipulated into doing something bad when he doesn't want to anymore, already made you kind of feel bad for him.
It's kind of tragic, yeah.
We get the big page of her hanging upside down, being tortured, seemingly. Again, we don't really think that's real, but we get that. And then we get stuff with the family, with Superman and Lois rushing off for a job thing or whatever. The notable thing here, though, is that John asks to spend some time with his dad. He's like, "Hey, can we hang out back at the farmhouse, whatever?" And Superman's like, "Yeah, that's great. Oh, and we can take the kids and we can teach them how to play that game." And John, that's not what he wanted to hear. He was wanting for some alone time. Maybe we know he's feeling a little bit weird because he kind of lost his childhood, a lot of it with his parents, and now these new kids are here getting basically picking up from the age he left off, funnily enough.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad that Johnson addresses this too, because it was kind of like the elephant in the room with John and Ulsol and
it definitely feels
Otto?
like maybe there's a reason why Clark kind of adopted them beyond just the surface stuff. But
which they have
level is for him. It's that void of when we lost.
They have brought that up as well. They have actually brought that up in dialogue where they've talked about how they get to kind of like fill in those gaps with these other kids and give them. It's kind of like when you hear parents talking about how they've lost a child and they have a second kid or they adopt a kid afterwards, if they're in the space to do that, sometimes you hear that, oh well, we had all this love to give and that like we didn't get a chance to actually do it properly, so like after the pain went away, or at least we got comfortable with it, we decided we should do it again with someone else. We should give someone else all those resources that we were going to give them. So
I think it's interesting on a behind the scenes sort of level that maybe Johnson's like, hey, obviously he's not going far enough to undo aging up John or anything like that. I don't even know if he'd be allowed if he suggested it, but more just he was interested in seeing, Clark and Lois be parents to a teenager, and kind of and that didn't get to happen in the end. So maybe this is his way of going, well, hang on, I wanted to see that. Maybe we should kind of put that in there.
It's funny to me actually as well. The probably my favorite thing in this issue is you have that Superman speech earlier about saving the I don't know what we're calling those. I mean, just the Earther, I guess, the Blue Earther.
Yeah, Blue Earthers. Yeah.
But I was trying to think of like a fancy name for like Metallo Light or Metallo Henchman or whatever. But
Metallo
anyway,
drones.
Yeah.
Metallites.
So we had that earlier on, and I think what's interesting here is a very intentional thing where John has a moment to show his character here as well, where the boy, I don't know if it's Otho or Ozzel.
I think it's Ozzel.
Right, okay, yeah. Ozzel's the boy.
Yeah.
But he comes in and he thinks, oh, do you not like us? Do you hate us? And he's like, what? We should say that. And basically, because like we're here now, we're taking your dad from you or whatever. And John immediately makes it very clear, look, yeah, I'm a little bit sad because I lost this time with my parents and it feels kind of weird that it's been taken by someone else. But none of this is your fault. And I don't hold anything against you. And he kind of, it feels very like human, but also Superman for him to lean down and make it clear. None of this is on you, your sister. None of this, and it's good because he brings up the puzzle thing, which has been brought up before. He says, I had the last one in existence, but he made a new one for you and your sister, and it's a good thing that more of these exist now. But yeah, like I do have some personal things, but so yeah, I thought that was a really nice like counterpoint. It was kind of, John's obviously had his ongoing book for a while there before, and he's got a mini right now. But I felt like this is one of the best moments he's had as an adult, I guess. Ever since they've aged him up, was this little moment here to kind of like really emphasize
mature he's felt.
Yeah.
Oh, it was for me. It was moving just because the whole idea that looking at this kid who only knows conflict, right? Being raised on War World, so his first thing is like, well, this guy hates me because I'm taking his spot. And I
took his chains. I've taken his chains for my own. Yes.
And so he goes and addresses it like, "Oh, you hate us because we're here to replace you." And John's like, "Well, no, cut that out. No. I don't hate you guys. I'm like, Pete had said, I'm sad. I missed out on this time with my parents, but like, that's not on you. This is a me problem, not a you problem. I'm here for you, no matter what you need." And so, he is his father's son. And I'm glad that came through.
Yeah, and then he offers to hang out with him, and then that's when the little twist at the end is that the sister has been watching the Blue Earther like riot or like whatever you want to call it,
peaceful protest
on TV, and the little twist at the end is that she's shown up to break it up in uniform in public, so
and maybe killed someone.
Yeah,
maybe. Again, also, these kids have only known conflict. So she sees a bunch of people throwing down. She's like, I'm going to go stop that. So, the characterizations of the super family, I really like it, especially considering I really enjoyed that House of L stuff that we got.
Yeah.
And I can see this. Yeah, I can kind of see the seeds here with how Johnson's dealing with the super family. And, especially considering that the super family never felt this together, right? Like Kara's kind of always doing her thing, and Superboy was doing his thing with the Titans or Young Justice, but now that they're all showing up in the book, and then even Keenan, right? Just Keenan being there and having the conversation with Clark and Mandarin, like it's all very they all feel like a family, like the Bat family always has.
Which I don't know if Superman family has ever felt that way, and it's definitely never been this big before. There's more members than there ever has been.
I think the closest that you've probably ever got to that is in that aftermath of the death of Superman, where you had that handoff between the different Supermen.
Yeah, the closest we've had since we started this show was definitely in some of the Jurgens Action Comics
Yeah.
when the team was sort of working together. But since then we've added in, because obviously John was around at the time, but he wasn't in action that much at the time. I don't think. Was he? No, he would have been, but I don't remember him being in that arc. When they all got together to fight Zod.
He didn't have a lot of plot. He was just he was the kid, right?
Yeah. Whereas now he's one of the adults, and now we've got the two new kids. Like we've got so we've got like a whole bigger team now. The Steels are there, like
Supergirl.
Yeah, so it's a whole thing now, which is nice. It's different. It's a different dynamic. And it's funny, like DC sometimes, and Marvel can be guilty of this too, especially with Spider-Man. But this idea that we can't have them be married, we have to have them be single, because you can't do stories with like a wife and with kids and with like a family. And I'm like, all my favorite Superman stuff seems to be family related. All my favorite Flash stuff is family related. What are you talking about? Stop it.
It always baffled me that Marvel had that stance with Spider-Man, when like for the longest time they've had Fantastic Four being like one of their cornerstone properties. That whole shtick is they're a family, right?
Yeah. But it was that from inception, though. That was like it was introduced that way.
But that proves that it can work, and it had worked for like 50 odd years.
Right. But with them and Spider-Man, they wanted to get up on the he's the everyman. They want to see him date around and have issues on dates, and you never really get that with Clark, because it's always been Lois and Clark, right?
Yeah.
And when they don't put them together, it just feels off.
I think
they didn't even.
The comparison with Fantastic Four that I would sort of say is that I think the equivalent to Fantastic Four is not that they're a family, and I get why you're comparing it to that. I would say the equivalent thing to Fantastic Four would be the same reason why, like, they'll never have Spider-Man in a relationship or / marriage for too long. Is the same reason why Fantastic Four, like, will always end up reverting back to those core 4 members. It's kind of the same thing, where it's like, it'll change to like new members for a while, and maybe they'll split up for a bit. But they'll always come back in the same way that Peter Parker will always end up being kind of single again, because they want to tease Black Cat.
Probably a teenager again in high school.
Yeah, and they want to do all the same greatest hits again,
Kind of boring.
Progression's good. Progression leads to new stories.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this with the Flash, right? And we get Wally and his family, and Linda, and all the stuff that Jeremy Adams has done.
Well, that's fine, because we've just had a decade or so of having Barry back.
Right. So, but yeah, no, it was just all the stuff with the Super family I super enjoyed. I did not mean to do that double super, right? But I'm really enjoying it, and Johnson's every additional thing that he adds, I'm enjoying. So
all right, we can move on to the backup then, I suppose. Well, the first of the two backups anyway. Which was the Dan Jurgens story with John being off with the princess, and Doombreakers maybe breaking Doom.
Yeah, so I went back and read the 30th anniversary special of Death of Superman, right? Because my completion
is where this stuff came from.
in. Yeah, and like all you really have to know is that right after John comes into the scene, he's learning in Metropolis. He's on a field trip, and he's at school, and his teacher's wearing an armband of from the Death of Superman. And it's kind of meta in this, and he talks about where he was that day, and there's a lot of 9/11 allegory, right, working in there. But that's how John finds out about Doomsday and that his dad died. And to this kid who his dad is literally invulnerable, it's a thing that causes problems. So he ends up, because of all of this time, this guy had been exposed to a fragment of Doomsday. It starts to turn him into Doombreaker, So John goes to try to stop it. Superman has to stop him. They end up having to team up. Why Jurgens would choose to have John, who is terrified of Doomsday, take a fragment of Doomsday as like a weird trophy? Still, I don't understand.
Facing his fears, maybe?
I guess, but like keeping it in his like little secret clubhouse or whatever, away from his parents. It is a weird, because story, type thing.
Yeah.
But that's where all of this got seeded was in that part. And so now we're dealing with Fallout, which everything in these two so far in this backup is much better than the story that preceded it with Doombreaker. So that's a positive.
Did that have Lee Weeks art?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and look. I can't remember. So
it's definitely always nice seeing weeks. And Elizabeth Brightweiser on the colors as well. It's a great pairing.
Yes. So
and the coloring's almost like a little Frankavilla in places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I see where you're going with that.
Usually works with Sean Phillips on the Brubaker books, right?
Yes, I think not so much anymore. I think it's
not on
Sean Phillips' son now that does those.
Wow. With Jacob?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does them now.
Okay. I just remember Britt Weiser's name being on a lot of those criminal issues and on the Fade Out. I think maybe even Fatale.
She definitely worked with them for a long time.
So it's this very naturalistic style of coloring, and I think it fits with this tone of Superman.
It's naturalistic, but with an edge of pulp.
Yeah.
Which I think is where the Frankavilla influence, comparison comes in more.
Makes sense.
That pulp side of it.
Yeah, especially when there's like a dash of orange and red on an otherwise like cold page. That's very Frankavilla to me.
I think as well in this where you have the kind of the bright green beams.
Mm.
That definitely feels like a Frankavilla sort of style.
Yeah, there's the robot on the spaceship that's going to take them back to her planet, and John's like, "Wait a minute, I'm Kryptonian," and uses his heat vision to cause some chaos. However, the cliffhanger being that he's actually ruined the ship and they're falling to their death, seemingly.
They're plummeting, right?
Yeah.
Well, while Clark's dealing with Doombreaker on his doorstep, right, while also trying to get his son, because they're worried that since Doomsday wants to kill all Kryptonians, that he'll find John, and it's the worst case scenario for Clark. Because they also make it very clear that in that 30th anniversary that Clark coming back from dying from Doomsday is kind of like a one-time deal. That it used all of that Kryptonian energy, in order to revive him. So they're basically essentially out of magic wishes. So that place comes into play here too.
So they can't use it on John.
No.
Honestly, you could have gone with the argument of if they had wanted to keep it around as a possible thing.
Yeah.
You could still have gone with the argument, well, John's not Kryptonian and afraid to work on him.
Right. He's still half human.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I love all the stuff with the Space Princess. Like, again, it's got that pulpiness. And, it feels very much to me like this is kind of John's introduction to the larger world that his dad's involved in, right? It's not just the stuff on Earth. It's, these people seeking him out because of his reputation.
And they play off each other really nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the most fun thing about it, honestly, is they're back and forth.
Yeah.
So, no, it was a decent, fun little backup. I didn't read the last backup, though, because I've not read any of them, because I don't like the
Pete,
art.
are you ready? Connor, did you read it or no?
I did. Am I the only one who's enjoying this?
Oh, no, I am. I really love this.
Okay.
Yeah.
The way you said that, I thought it was a...
because when we get to this character reveal, I want to see Pete's face. So, because this finally reveals what Omen and not Kara, what do they give her new name? Paige?
They call her Paige, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they've been calling her, what was it, like PG, and they call her Peach, so it's John who gives her the new name. But hey, it's kind of similar.
Paige. And I do like that they give Power Girl this new identity, because she is kind of like Kara from Earth 2, but not really. But so...
And she talks about how, Karen's not really a name. That was just something that she used to differentiate herself.
Right. It was an identity.
It's still too similar. It's not really her.
No. So this kicks off with, Kara. Someone's been attacking the super family and going after like their communication centers of their brain. So they, John kind of volunteers to be like, well, you can enter my brain and we'll go through this, even though I don't really need the super therapy.
But he already knows, because he knows multiple languages.
Yeah.
It'll really help, because it'll help distinguish what exactly it's attacking them.
Right. And so they're going around his brain, and this is where he has a conversation with Power Girl that, he's like, you are part of the family. And she's like, well, I've never really felt like it. And John's kind of like, well, from my understanding, you always put yourself at a distance from us. Like, we'll welcome you. And she goes, yeah, but with Supergirl around, I feel redundant. And he goes, we don't have to. And it was this very good, again, it's John being his father's son of trying to include her, and she's given him the stiff arm the entire time. And Omen breaks through, and they get talking about the different like language centers of the brain and how to communicate, and it's all of this subtext of like Kara's putting up her own fronts that she doesn't want to deal with, because deep down as an outsider she doesn't really want to be welcomed. You know,
she's just bad at communicating these things to the rest of the
right. Except, you know, in this, now that she has this, you know, telepathy to go with, because of her outsiderness, kind of, she can break down and see these core issues that, you know, and that's how they got through with Supergirl. She saw the code, right? It's kind of like Neo in the Matrix. So when John starts, you know, tripping out with the language center, she's able to, you know, it wasn't like with Kara, it was like with Beast Boy, that she's able to find the thread. And they end up pulling on the thread through John, and they find out who is coming after the super family here, and it's none other than Johnny Sorrow.
Yeah, that was a fun reveal.
Yeah, so they start pulling, and the art's real cool because as you know, John's talking, they're having him focus on like stay in the dream world, but also try to be in you know, the real world at the same time. And so John can do this with his multilingualism and whatnot to kind of confuse who's ever doing this, right? Like really focus on it happening outside, Paul doing it inside. And Paige, as we'll call her now, starts pulling on this thread, and it unravels into this face, like a laugh now, I'll cry later, like a theater mask face. And then, you know, out of that, when he keeps
pulling it, it's Johnny Sorrow. So this is continuing the Power Girl special.
Yes.
Not here in the. I don't know if this will if that's like before the next issue of Action. It's going to just be in the.
There's a special that was coming out soon. So
it's bizarre to me that that's just a one issue special and not like a mini or anything.
Well, especially that since this started in the Lazarus Planet stuff, and then it went to Action, and now, so I do hope they collect it. Because I think this is one of those stories that it has given Power Girl her own identity, you know, and I hope that they use that as a jumping off point. And I like this writer just using this as a way to also talk about, like, you know, mental health in a way of, you know, using superheroes to address this stuff, and you know, because they are reflections of the readers.
And obviously, in the main book, we're talking about how, you know, there's a wider super family than kind of ever before.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely feels like the end game of this story is to get her a bit more involved with the rest of the family,
right?
Going forward, which would be nice, because hey, more and like I said, they're trying to make her different from Kara, you know, and okay, well, it's not just another Supergirl,
right?
And long term, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. So
she could do with an outfit upgrade. Is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, well, because in one of the early issues, they made that joke, you know, about her the chest window and whatnot, and so she's like, yeah, maybe I could use some alterations and stuff. So I think by the end of this, we'll definitely see a newer.
Yeah, I do.
This is a slightly different outfit because they've given her like it's like a red jacket instead of a cape, which I do like. I think it looks good. It's like a short.
I wonder if like just giving her the red S on basically give her the Supergirl outfit, but just have the white color scheme instead.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of on blue, like Kara has.
Because I just something about the blue gloves and then just the white top with the boob windows just always look kind of shit to me, and I you know, I've never.
I think it looks a lot better with this red jacket though, because it's not just the blue on white.
Right. Yeah, there's just something about that costume of its era that I don't know how it's been around for so long. You know,
because men like tits, Matt. That's why.
No, I get that, but like at the same time, it's not like she's been like this major character, right? Like she was always in the JSA books.
Yeah.
Like, and every time she had a solo series, it kind of, because they never understood who she was, you know, so she couldn't be around. But you know, just throw her in and make her the butt of jokes because of that.
Oh, you can even make the S blue. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. If you're putting the blue S on the white top with the red cape and blue gloves, I could see. Yeah, I could see that kind of work.
Also, there's a little bit of inconsistency on the art in just on her outfit in this, because on the back she's meant to have a big like S, kind of like on a biker jacket on a big logo on the back. And in some panels it's just not there. It's just a plain red jacket. But in other ones, you know, it is. It seems really hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, biker jackets with S's on them and stuff just makes me think of CW costuming.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very Riverdale.
So we're done with the backup.
Yeah, I really like
Johnny Sorrow.
Do we know if this backup's being replaced after that Power Girl special, or if they're just continuing it here?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think we know.
I don't remember the solicits.
Right. Fair enough.
But yeah, all right. What are we rating the book then as a whole, Matt?
As a whole, I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Connor?
I'm gonna go with a straight 8, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm going 8.5, which is mainly just for the main story. But like, I really like the stuff that it's doing with the family stuff. I think Superman and John both had the good speeches, which felt really cool. And I'm liking the tragedy side of the Metallo stuff. So I mean, it's still very much a middle issue and an arc, but like all the things that it's doing are all firing in all cylinders for me. So 8.5.